And broadly, what do they expect from their government in office? I'm just going to use some numbers this morning to assist me in bringing the point forward. You notice I didn't say make the point, because the point is only made if enough of you agree that the point is valid, if the point is solid. So here goes. Let us be guided by the numbers from the latest Don Anderson poll, done for elsewhere, done for the RGR Gleaner Group, and which show the PNP with a 3 percentage point lead thereabouts over the JLP. And I know that many of you have many thoughts about the numbers themselves and the ways those stories have been published. And your opinion is yours, so I'll leave you on that. But let's be guided by those numbers, and then we're going to be guided by another set of Don Anderson numbers using the headline number as the guide. Don Anderson's polls are telling us that when Jamaicans are asked about voting intention, what they're likely to do, well, not likely, what they're going to do on election day, or what they would do if election day was now, the difference between the JLP and the PNP is 3 percentage points. Thin. Very, very thin. This is a government that's been in office over 2 terms since 2016, as we all know, and an opposition party that's been in opposition since 2016. And the difference between them, Don Anderson poll says, is just 3 percentage points, with the opposition leading the race. And you ask yourself, okay, what has the opposition offered that has put them in this position? And how has the country been run so badly by this Holness administration that they find themselves in deficit to the opposition? And then you ask yourself, but is that really so? I ask you to consider these numbers for comparison. Right now, we know that we have record unemployment, under 4%. Yet the government that has authored, essayed, and done that is 3% behind in the polls. We know murders have declined by 40+%. Yet the party responsible for that, behind in the opinion polls. We know that the prevalence of poverty is under 8.5% as measured by the PIOJ from 2023, which is a record low, 30-year record. Yet the party responsible for that is behind in the polls. Don Anderson's polls, that's what we're using as our guide. We know that the debt level, the country's debt, is 60-odd%, 68%. Yet the party responsible for that is behind in the polls, according to Don Anderson. Let's go back then to 2016 rather, and going into those elections of February 25, 2016. The PNP was in office going into the election. Don Anderson's polls on the eve of election, I think his poll was published on February 22 that year, 3 days before the election. And Don Anderson's poll then, as reported by my friend Darian Luton from the Gleaner, said, almost on the eve of the country's 17th general election, an RGR commissioned Don Anderson poll has found that Simpson Miller's PNP and the Holness JLP are in a tight race. The poll, which was conducted among 1,093 people with a margin of error of plus or minus 3%, showed the PNP with 30.8% popular support, slightly ahead of the JLP on 27.5%. The PNP, it said, had moved 3.8 percentage points since January, when Anderson conducted his last poll, while the JLP has improved by 5 percentage points. The release of the poll, the Gleaner said, is more good news for the PNP, which came out ahead of the JLP in the most recent Gleaner commissioned Bill Johnson poll. So both Bill Johnson, 3 days before the February 2016 general election, and Don Anderson had the PNP ahead. Not by much, but ahead. What was the situation leading up to those 2016 elections? Remember, I've given you numbers you know about crime and economy and poverty prevalence and GDP and so forth. No, in the no situation, the Labour Party has some incredible numbers, some historic numbers under its belt. Yet, the Don Anderson poll says it is trailing the PNP. Going into the 2016 election, 2015 saw 1,192 murders. This was a 20% increase over 2014. So the PNP went into the 2016 election with murders increasing by about 20% if you're using the 2015 calendar year, because only January and February to compare in 2016. So let's work with that. So they went into the 2016 election with murders on the rise. Unemployment. The unemployment in Jamaica going into the 2016 election was 13.2%. 13.2%. That's what the PNP went into the election with as the governing party. The economy for the 2015 calendar year, it grew by 0.8%. So the economy never hot. Yeah? And the poverty prevalence in 2015 was 21.2%. That's what they went in with. The Don Anderson polls said then that that party went into the election leading in terms of which party people would select to form their government, with crime up, poverty prevalence at 21.2%. The debt was 120% of GDP. What else did I look at? I looked at the unemployment numbers, as I said, 13.2% youth unemployment, over 20%. Bad numbers going in, yet they were ahead in the opinion polls. This government has what it tells us every day, and what is true is not just because they tell us. Record numbers on the positive side, trailing in the polls. It must cause you to wonder, well, if the polls are to be believed, what do people want? We of course know that the Bill Johnson poll did not accurately predict what happened in 2016 in the election. The Don Anderson poll did not accurately predict what would happen in the 2016 election. The poll that Anderson has now has the separation that we all know, about 3 points. So why, with this record, is this government, according to the polls, struggling to breathe against the opposition? Why would that be so? What is it that we're demanding of our leaders that we're not getting sufficient for us to be so discontented that we want the alternative to what is in office? Is it 9 years of fatigue? We're tired of the Labour Party administration, so we want a change. And we say, boy, give PNP a chance. Is that what is reflected in the polls? The Blue Dot poll, the margin of difference between the parties is not much different from the Don Anderson numbers. We had it at 4%, the Blue Dot people. Correct. There you go. Yeah? So still small. What does it mean? What value is there in performance? Because if you can go into an election with these numbers and be behind your rival, you must ask yourself, well, what am I doing? Especially when cycles before, as recently as 2016, the incumbent then went in with horrible numbers And the Don Anderson poll said they were leading. You know what conundrum mean? You know what it is to be flummoxed? This is one of those situations. How do you explain this? And you have to ask yourself, and ask the governing parties, and ask all politicians, caretakers especially as well, equally the same question you'll ask the MPs. What causes you to be absent from your constituency for much of your term in office? So that when you come to the constituency near election time and are prominent, it is so stark, the difference in terms of your visibility and your accessibility. Caretakers walking every community in the constituencies they are aspiring to represent. MPs there every shop, buy water, buy liquor, buy food, buy everywhere all the time. What is it about the work that causes you to only be able to spare a little time round about election time with the people who elected you? Some of the things that we need to interrogate. But yeah, the numbers have me away because you can't understand. And that immortal question that my hero Stuart loves to ask, Tana, how come?